Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV. My name is Ben Kelly. This is the Liverpool Development Watch and it is the season roundup for all the Loanees. We're going to go through each Loanee individually, talk about their seasons and talk about what is next for each and every one of them. It's been a really interesting season for some of them. Uneventful for some, but very, very good, positive and good for a lot of other ones. So where should we start? I think we should start abroad. We're going to get more of the complex situations out of the way to begin with, I think, and we're going to start with Taiwo Awoniyi. He was had a season of two halves, really. He started out in Belgium with Ghent and then was quite poor there, so we moved him to Excel Mouscron after Christmas, where he scored 11 in 16 appearances. He's had a really strong end to the season there. It's clear that he's got loads of talent, but are Liverpool going to keep him? He's got this work permit situation that is starting to look a bit hopeless. In April, he admitted himself that he may never gain a work permit to work in this country, and he could be sold this summer, basically, because you can't just keep loaning him out and contributing to wages, and you've got a player on your books there where you might be able to get somebody in who genuinely will have a chance to play for the club in the future. And I think the club clearly recognised that that he does have talent, and I think that we've still got some hope that he might be able to play for us. But he's now going to be sent out, I think, next season on his 5th loan, maybe even his 6th, and he's still nowhere near, really. And I think it's all about giving other lads an opportunity. And I think if we've got other lads, we'll have scouts all over the world, won't we? And they'll be able to monitor, young talent coming out of the likes of Brazil and other places in South America. Obviously Awoniyi is Nigerian, so other parts of Africa that we might be able to bring in and give another lad an opportunity, because at the moment it's just not working out for Awoniyi. So I think personally that my verdict will be the club will sell Awoniyi this summer. Pedro Chiavea, now this is a guy who's been at the club for far too long now without getting anywhere. He's a good player, he's a good central midfielder. He's just not the cut that we need him to be. We tried to get a deal out in January with Spanish second division side Extremadura, but it failed due to a problem with the paperwork, I believe. So basically he's missed out on a full season of first team football. It's a year of development that's just gone completely down the drain for him. He's admitted himself that he basically wants to leave. Liverpool will be looking to ship him on as well. It makes sense for all parties, really, that he goes back to Spain and finds his level, because he's just never going to be a Liverpool central midfielder. Verdict again, sell in the summer. Another work permit situation, this time it's the Brazilian midfielder Alan Rodriguez. He spent his season at Fluminense, his 6th loan move since joining the club. In an attempt to get a work permit, he just can't do it. It's a bit like Awoniyi. He just cannot get enough attention from the national side, basically, to come anywhere near gathering enough points to be able to work in this country. He's now said that he wants to stay in Brazil permanently. I think that makes sense for him, the club, everybody involved. Let's just make that deal happen permanently in the summer. He's a fantastic player with a lot of talent, but he's never going to be able to play for Liverpool, and that's a shame. Verdict, sell him in the summer. Okay, young goalkeeper Kamil Grabara, who spent the second half of the season on loan, a successful spell at AGF Aarhus in Denmark. Very successful. He had a bit of a sticky start, just finding confidence a bit, but then he really did hit form. He's 20 years old with clearly a lot of potential. Simon Mignolet might be on his way out. We're going to talk about Simon Mignolet and Loris Karius just in a second. But we do have quite a few quality young goalkeepers at the moment. We've got Shamal George, we've got Cohen Calais, and obviously Grabara as well. So, these guys are going to be in competition with each other. Whether or not, I think the next step, really, the verdict for me this summer with Grabara is to loan him out again for a full season. Maybe not in Denmark, maybe to one of Europe's top 5 leagues, just for a little bit more, to gauge a little bit more what kind of level he's at. If he can perform to the sort of level that he has in Denmark, and say, even if he's like a shining light, even if we lower into like an awful German side in the Bundesliga, and he's a bit of a shining light for them, that maybe that's a little bit more of a inkling then as to how good he actually is. Obviously we signed Karius from Mainz, and he had some good performances for Liverpool, so maybe we go forward, and I think the next step with Grabara's development would be, still only 20 years old, so he's got loads of time left for a goalkeeper, loan him out for another full season to one of Europe's top 5 leagues and see how he does there. So let's talk about Loris Karius then. It's been a huge season of ups and downs for him. It must have been so mentally challenging this last 12 months, obviously starting in Kiev. if we can put that aside, you know, the disappointment of Kiev, you know, you have to appreciate how difficult this must have been for him himself. He's had the being paid issue. I believe he's now actually resolved all that, and he's also been slagged off by his manager a few times. You know, he's saying that, I think at one point he said, I'd rather put a 40-year-old goalkeeper in goal, and all of this going on. But at the same time, he's put in some pretty solid performances for Besiktas as well. Obviously, they've been pushing for Europe. He's a good goalkeeper, isn't he? You know what? He's a good goalkeeper. He's not going to make it at Liverpool because we've signed Alisson Becker and he's absolutely world class. It's kind of one of them where as soon as you've got somebody like Alisson, you can never go back. So he's not going to play for Liverpool again. Now, we're going to discuss loads on this channel about, you know, the futures of first team players. So I don't want to tread on the toes of all that too much. But, you know, Simon Mignolet and Loris Karius, what do we do with them now? Personally, I think we should sell both and we should focus on our lads in the system because Shamal George is a great goalkeeper, Calaire's a great goalkeeper, Kamil Grabara is a great goalkeeper. Three of those lads that could be really developed, especially under the guidance of Alisson, you know, that would be the ideal situation. Now, a lot of people argue, well, we need a second senior goalkeeper. That is the case. If we can find one that's better than Mignolet for 10 million, then absolutely, you know, I'm all in on maybe going for like Neil Etheridge from Cardiff, you know, given that they've just been relegated. He had a pretty good season. So if we can go in for somebody like that, then that's absolutely fine. But for me, right now, we've got three great goalies, all coming through the youth system. You know, I know Calais does a lot of the warming up with Alisson, you know, on match days and stuff like that. So he's been in his understudy basically all season. To both Mignolet and Alisson, to be fair. And that's what I do now. So my verdict on Loris Karius is to sell him. He needs to get out of this club, I think. Not because I'm being bitter, but because it's for his own good. He needs a fresh start. He clearly hasn't had the best time in Turkey. Maybe send him back to Germany where, you know, he's going to be a bit more familiar with his surroundings. He's probably got family there. And he can really begin to rebuild his career. Again, Loris Karius isn't an old goalkeeper. He's still got plenty of time to try and revive his career and play at a top level. But I think for now, he needs to continue rebuilding that confidence. He looks like he's done it a little bit, but for me, you know, he needs to carry on that. And I think Germany were the best place for him to do it. Continuing with the German theme then, we're going to talk about Marco Grujic, who, despite a few injury issues, has had a great season for Hertha Berlin. Hertha boss Pal Dardai labelled him the best Hertha midfielder for 20 years, which makes you wonder what sort of quality midfielder they've had at Hertha Berlin over the years. But look, he is a good midfielder, Marco Grujic. I was a bit harsh there. You know, he has been good in a Liverpool shirt in the appearances he's made. I think it's just testament to where we are at a club at the moment that he can't really get a look in. Personally, I'd have him in the squad for pre-season at least. I think that's my verdict. Atletico Madrid, you know, are looking at him to talk about 20 million euros. Hertha Berlin are dying to have him back in the squad next season. You know, that's how much of an impact he's made there. I'd get him in the squad for pre-season. You know, obviously we've got the tour, and we'll probably do some local friendlies as well. You know, see what the situation is there, how well he gels back into the squad. But I'm just starting to wonder really whether he's missed his opportunity in this midfield. Obviously, James Milner will potentially go. Although Leeds aren't coming up now, so maybe he'll stay for one more season. I'd really like him to. But you just wonder, with Oxlade-Chamberlain coming back and Jordan Henderson starting to make that step up and become, you know, a more attacking midfielder for us, is it a case of him having missed a boat, Marco Grujic? And I do think that could be the case. And I think if Liverpool do get a decent offer for him in the summer, they really will consider it, because I think he's a good player, but at the same time, I think we've got better players. And I think we're at a position at a club now where you really can afford to be picky with players. You know, is this player going to be world class, or is he currently world class? No? Okay, well, we'll move him on. And I think that's the position where we are at the club at the moment, and that's a really good position to be in, because it means that top quality talent like Marco Grujic, you kind of got freedom with. You can keep him and see how he develops, or you can sell him and make a profit on him. And I think that's probably what Liverpool will choose to do this summer. So personally, I'll have him in the squad for the pre-season games, but don't be surprised if he does get moved on permanently this summer. Up to Scotland then, let's discuss Liam Miller, the Canadian forward who spent 6 months on loan at Kilmarnock, where he got some career milestones under his belt, including his first senior goal. He made 13 appearances, just 2 starts. A promising start to his career, but clearly not ready to be at the level we require yet. He's always been really impressive for the youth sides, by the way, and I think he does have something about him, but we've just got to keep obviously the clear next step really is a full season-long loan. I think he is good enough for the Scottish Premiership, and I think he's probably good enough for the Championship as well. So I'd be exploring those two options if I was in charge, let's say. Look, yeah, as I say, he's got something about him, so he's one to keep an eye on. I won't be moving him on just yet permanently, although, maybe we'll be loaning to sell, if you get me. If he does another full season in the Championship and he has a season, say, like Harry Wilson's just had, we're going to talk about him shortly, you maybe end up getting 10-15 million for him, and that's just out of academy prospect. So when the club loans players out, it's not always necessarily to develop them for themselves, it's to obviously develop them to maybe get a bigger transfer fee later down the line. So yeah, I think the next step for Liam Miller is a loan, either full season definitely, but either back to the Scottish Premiership or to the Championship, and I think that would be a really good next step for him. Ryan Kent has had a superb season under Steven Gerrard at Rangers. He made himself crucial to the team, scored important goals, won the fans over, even won the Scottish PFA's Young Player of the Season. What more can you ask out of a loanee? He's probably the second most successful loan of the season. And obviously he's already being linked with a permanent move there. Steven Gerrard said that Rangers have made an offer for him. I think he'd be wise to move along there permanently, personally. Obviously he'll have a goal of playing the Premier League, whether that be for Liverpool or anybody else. And I reckon really that he will want to move permanently to Rangers, really build a career there over the next 2-3 years. And then I wouldn't be surprised if off the back of that, we saw him back in the Premier League in the next couple of seasons, with another club. He would go in quite easily, I think, now into any one of the bottom half clubs in the Premier League. You can imagine somebody like a Bournemouth or a Newcastle just taking a punt on him. So I think that would be a good next step for him, to move him on permanently now. I don't think he's going to make the grade at Liverpool as an exciting player, but much like Marco Grujic, we've just got better players. We've got a world-class squad at the moment. It must be quite a daunting prospect, actually, for quite a lot of the Loanees and maybe quite a lot of the youth players as well, looking at our squad going, where am I going to get an opportunity? And I suppose it's the mentality difference between those players and the players who are going to be absolutely determined to get a role in the squad in any way, shape or form, like Trent Alexander-Arnold. That elite mentality to go, well, I should be a centre midfielder, but I'm going to play right back just so I can get in the team. And there'll be a handful of them within the Loanees and within the youth side who, will be determined to get into the side any which way. But a fair few of them will be looking at our team going, I just don't know if I'm ever going to be good enough to make it. And look, we'll see if they will be or not. But I do think that Ryan Kent might just be one of them who'll rather than try and fight for his place here. He might get in the pre-season squad as well, but he's clearly working well with Steven Gerrard. He's clearly a fan favourite at Rangers. Why not just go and have that career and come back, as I say, to the Premier League in a couple of seasons' time and make that step up then? He's clearly enjoying his football. He's playing every week. I think he'll be pretty much happy to carry on doing that at one of Scotland's biggest clubs as well. It's not like he's playing in some random park, like some of the Scottish clubs do lower down in the divisions, and some of the English clubs as well. But I think if you had the opportunity to be a mainstay at Rangers, especially considering what they're building, then I don't think you could go wrong. Just dead quickly as well, Adam Bogdan, still here, not much to report. His contract's up this summer. We won't be renewing it. Moving swiftly on. Okay, Ovie Ejaria then, who obviously started the season with a relatively tough spell on loan at Rangers. He showed promise, but I think there were other issues that led to him cutting that one short, just things that I don't want to get bogged down in too much. He found his feet a bit more, though, when moving to Reading. That's where he spent the second half of this season. We've seen a bit more of the creative side to him that people following the youth sides will recognise. I think there's nothing really strong enough for me to suggest that Klopp should be keeping him. But then again, the problem was that he was basically, for the second season in a row, thrust into a relegation battle in the second half of the season. Obviously Reading was struggling. He was at Sunderland this time last year, and they've just finished rock bottom of the Championship and sunk like a stone down to League One. I think he needs to be in an environment that's a bit more positive if we were going to loan him out again. And that's what I would do, by the way. I probably would loan him out for one more season, see how he does. But maybe to more of a mid-table Championship side that are perhaps looking to push for promotion. There's a few of them in there. Preston have had a good season. Brentford, Sheffield Wednesday could push for. All of these teams have got the opportunity to maybe push for the playoffs. They're just a few players short of doing that. it's no good being in an environment, even though you've got something to fight for, where the morale can be quite low. You know, and Redden, even though they survived relegation, it wasn't a pleasant season for them, and I think that can contribute. Particularly if it's a confidence player, you know, we've had loads of confidence players at Liverpool over the years, but if he thrives when he's playing well, much like Divock Origi is at the moment, you know, then that can be where he falls down. If he's in a dressing room where it's all doom and gloom, then that's no good for him. So I think we need to bank on basically hitting lucky and finding the right load that, you know, he can be in an environment where it's positive and uplifting, and, you know, he can begin to express himself a little bit. And I think that might be best for him. Look, if he hasn't shown much by 2020, I'd then move it on permanently, but I'd give him one more year. Down a division now to Herbie Kane. He's so loved by Doncaster fans. He's had an absolutely brilliant season. He was given a long-term contract by Liverpool midway through as a reward. That's how good he's been playing at Doncaster this season. He developed into such a young, dangerous midfielder, getting 10 assists, 7 goals in 49 appearances. But what Doncaster fans have been so impressed with is the way he dominates that midfield, controls the game, and that isn't necessarily something you can teach. Whether he can do it at a higher level, but remains to be seen. That's what I think we should be doing with him next season. But in League One, he absolutely nailed it this year. It's a shame Doncaster didn't go up. He helped them to the playoffs, but now they've been knocked out of that. So for me, he would have needed a Championship loan this coming season, and it would have been great if Doncaster had gone up and he could have basically continued on that journey. But definitely go up a league this season. You know, again, the same teams that I mentioned before. There's loads of teams in the Championship who would kill to have him in the midfield. You know, with the way that he dominated for Doncaster this season. If he can replicate that in the Championship, then, you know, he will win fans over, and he will catch the eyes of many, not only around the league but also at Liverpool as well. So yeah, let's just say he could have a future at this club. Hopefully next season just goes as well as this one has. And talking about the Championship then, yes, let's talk about Harry Wilson, superstar. Absolute superstar. I got this so wrong at the beginning of the season. I was convinced that this was the wrong loan for him. You know, Frank Lampard just heading into management, doesn't know what he's doing. You know, Harry Wilson, a crucial season for him in his development, needed to be under experience for me. He needed to go out and find a good team that was stable and you know, wasn't as much as an unknown quantity as Derby were. I was wrong. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. Harry Wilson is potentially going to contribute to Derby getting promoted this season. They have been that good. I didn't do my research clearly into what a good young squad Derby have. You know, Jack Marriott, Mason Mount, loads of them. You know, they're just such a good side, exciting side to watch. Frank Lampard is clearly doing the business there, and fair play to him. Every single Liverpool fan should be wanting Derby to win that Championship playoff final, and no, not just because we want John Terry to cry, but because if Derby go up next season and we can loan him back to Derby, that would be so ideal for us, because I am convinced that he can do the business for Liverpool. I am convinced that, you know, if he becomes a bit more consistent over the course of, you know, another season in the Premier League, then he can absolutely make it in our squad as a squad player. But we need to see him do it in the Premier League. And if Derby go up, if he can have that continuity as part of his career, you know, under the same manager, he clearly has a good working relationship. Keep the main crux of that squad together, so he's working with the same teammates. If they can replicate, you know, some of the performances that they've put in the Championship in the Premier League next season, then that would be such a big step for him in his career. And I really do hope that Derby come up. You know, it's Derby or Villa. I wouldn't mind either way. You know, normally I like both clubs, but I think, you know, when we're talking about from a Liverpool perspective, put your Liverpool hats on for a second. It will be absolutely crucial for me in Harry Wilson's development if Derby came up and we can loan him back there. You know, he's hit 18 goals, 6 assists this season, up until the Leeds second leg, of course, and he's hit some really crucial and important goals for Derby. He scored a penalty in that second leg against Leeds, and who could forget that free kick away at Old Trafford? He's been absolutely amazing. Let's just hope that he can go up there again this season. And look, even if Derby don't go up, Premier League loan all day long. Get him out to a Premier League side and let him show what he can do in the Premiership. He's hungry to play for Liverpool, and if that hunger remains with him, then he will replicate his form this season no matter what club he's at. I have no doubt about that. What a season for Harry Wilson. And finally then, just to round off, Nathaniel Clyne, obviously returning from injury at the beginning of this season. He was loaned to Bournemouth in January. a lot of uproar really from Liverpool fans. You know, we didn't really have much cover for right back. Joe Gomez had been injured. You know, what were we going to do if Trent got injured? And to be fair, Trent did get injured, and you know, we missed him a little bit. You know, we drew a couple of games that you could argue were crucial in the title race in the end. But overall, I think it's clear that Klopp just doesn't fancy him. We talked about, you know, the different types of right back that we can have, you know, in loads of shows in this studio, and we've clearly been spoiled with Trent by now because of what he offers going forward. Klein just doesn't have that cutting edge. If Klopp wanted somebody like Nathaniel Klein in his squad, he'd have just kept Nathaniel Klein as backup. He clearly doesn't think he's good enough, so I think that just the clear option this season is just to sell him. Bournemouth are looking at him, West Ham are looking at him, 15 million quid. Why not? You know, he's played 15 times for Bournemouth, and he was very much the solid Nathaniel Klein that we're all used to, but that's it. And this team isn't about that's it at the moment, that'll do. This team is about picking the best players that they can possibly find and having them on our side. Just so happens to be at the moment that the best right back in the world is a 20-year-old Scouser called Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Nathaniel Klein isn't getting anywhere near this squad in the future, unfortunately. It's a shame for him because he's put in a good few years of service to Liverpool. Would have been nice for him to leave, you know, with a trophy, but he's not going to. I think he's going to go this summer permanently to Bournemouth or West Ham, and you know what, I wish him well. He has been a good player for us over the last few years. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, your roundup for the Loanees for Liverpool 18-19. What a season it's been for some of them. For some of them, it's been a bit of a setback, but I'm sure they'll bounce back or we'll move them on permanently. Thanks very much for watching as always. I'll be back next week with a roundup of all the youth sides. That content's coming up soon. And obviously, keep an eye on the channel. There's so much Madrid stuff on its way on the website as well. Head over there and subscribe. For now, though, with this video, like it, subscribe, leave me a comment down below with your thoughts on the players this season, and yeah, I'll be back next week with the youth content. Goodbye.